Day 22 of the Trump shutdown. The government's been shut down. Trump has been striking against the nation, which is ironic because in The Apprentice, I would have unionized all the players and then, kicked him off of his own show. We would have struck, and we would have shut down production, and we would have striked. It would have been good television, good entertainment, good fun, and you'd be building that solidarity. The Harlan County coal miners in the 1970s and the 1930s, that's the only time Kentucky was great, okay? But the Harlan County coal miners, they struck for 10 months. He's ready to do it for years. This is negotiating tactics. He's acting like he's going to, do this forever and ever. And he's even cutting a lot of his own fascist, I guess maybe a lot of Democrats were left over, so maybe he's just trying to clean all the Democrats out. Even Border Patrol. Border Patrol had a webpage that said that they were opposed to the wall. But it's mixed. Really, I think we should have referendums in the 4 border states. Arizona, of course, they'll fucking vote for a fucking wall. What about New Mexico? What about Texas? What about California? Let's put a referendum for the state. If they want it, give it to them. But I believe we should have just walls for the urban areas and keep it up with the rest of it. We got to fix the problem. We got to actually, attack the problem at its root cause. And the root cause is capitalism and imperialism. So the Marshall Plan to fix Central America, Trump is going to make it to where it's just the immigration services, but instead of just building infrastructures for, to keep immigrants out of the country, we should actually build up their fucking country. We toppled their Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, their Tulsi Gabbard. So their second elected socialist president, that's Guatemala. So we toppled them just because they popularly elected. They used democracy, and they used democracy badly when they picked a socialist instead of a capitalist. So we used violence against them, fucked their whole country up. We need to topple their fascist capitalist government and install a socialist government. We need to put them right back on track where they were before, because they've been fucking stumbling and falling over themselves ever since. And to use violence, if capitalism is such a great fucking idea, then it should just, thrive by itself, right? But everybody, it thrives off of inequality. It thrives off of inequality. To be a capitalist, you have to be a cutthroat, blood-sucking piece of shit. You have to really not give a flying fuck about anybody. You gotta get your money. As long as you get paid, that's all that matters, right? Well, in Kentucky, that was the one time that Kentucky's ever been great, or the 2 times. The only 2 times that Kentucky's ever been great was in Harlan County, 1930s, 1970s, when Kentuckians stood side by side with one another, fought for each other, had each other's backs, in solidarity with one another. Tighten your belts? What the fuck? They're getting all pissed off about, tighten your belts. The government workers, they get this government cushy job, right? Are they even doing a good job? Who gives a shit if they're doing a good job, right? Tighten your belts. Are all pissed off because Trump sent that memo telling all of them to make sure that they, in order to make money, to have garage sales, to go walk dogs, babysit. If you want to survive through this, you're going to have to find, well, fuck, that's what the capitalists tell us all to do all the time. So you get a cushiony fucking government job, you ain't got to do shit, really. And now all of a sudden, so the Syrian withdrawal is actually working. There is withdrawal that's happening now. So again, it's negotiation tactics, right? You can't say that you're going to get out in one day. He said immediately. So immediately, they're getting out as soon as possible. I think we should only get out as far as Kurdistan. We need to fight and die for Kurdistan. If you want to make Iraq good, you want to right the wrongs of Iraq, you got to make Iraq a success story. But Iraq was talking about kicking us out when Donald Trump went over there, so shit. Let's go and just protect Kurdistan. Let's protect Kurdistan. Let's stay right there with the Kurds, and let's carve a piece of Turkey out, and then give Kurdistan and Syria, the piece of Syria and the piece of Turkey, make Kurdistan a country. Make Google Maps recognize Kurdistan. Because I heard that Turkey's going to attack the Kurds whether America's there or not. So that does mean we should just go as far back as the Kurds. And then adopt the Kurds into our country as the 51st state. So now that the Syrian war is actually, There's a withdrawal that's happening with Syria. It's been 4.5 years. I don't know how many deaths, but, you know, thousands. Thousands have died in the Syrian war. So the withdrawal is happening, but we had two sides. The Pentagon was financing their terrorists, and then the CIA had their terrorists, and then we were fighting against the terrorists, but their terrorists, but not these terrorists. And so Tulsi Gabbard had actually put up a bill for Congress, for the entire American government, that was clearly called Stop Arming Terrorists Act. And nobody signed it. So Tulsi said, Stop Arming Terrorists Act. But the U.S. government and the American people allowed it, right? They're not putting pressure on they're not calling their people, they're not paying attention. And that's the problem with the fucking immigration debate, too. So I wonder who won, you know, now that we're getting out of Syria. Was it did the CIA's terrorists win, or did the Pentagon's terrorists win? So Tulsi Gabbard is in the race. This is great news. This is exciting. She or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the future of the Democratic or Progressive or Green Party. They're the future of America. They represent millennials way more than every single representative that's up there. 535 people to represent 329 million. I don't know. That math doesn't really pan out to me. So that's what, one representative per 100 billion? It's one representative for every 500,000? What the fuck? One representative for every... That can't be right. Let's figure this out. That'll be the last thing I talk about. But that's exciting, right? Tulsi Gabbard's in the race, so actually now we can block every fucking thing that Trump does. Obstruct, obstruct, obstruct. Democrats, don't stop obstructing. Politically, you cannot lose. Trump was a shitty fucking president. He got in there. He was an asshole. He's boisterous. He had all three branches of government that he couldn't even get his own fucking branch to do it. Now it's a national emergency. I would actually consider the immigration problem a crisis. But I also say that the war is a crisis. Poverty is a crisis. Homelessness is a crisis. The lack of health care. Lack of health care is killing 80,000 people. They want to tie this shit into drugs. Well, we need to end the war on drugs. Ending the war on drugs would solve this. It would stop the cartels. It would stop the violence. And people should be free anyways. Who the fuck are we to tell the whole world that they don't have a right to their own bodies? So 329 million, which is how many people's in the United States of America. And then let's count the people. 435 plus 100, so that's 535 plus 1, right? So that's the legislator plus the presidency, so that's 1. That's 4. That's 535, 536. And then there's 9 Supreme Court justices. So 536 plus 9, 545, right? So we got 545 people that's representing us. Not exactly the representatives, it's the whole government. But all the United States government, all three branches, come down to 545 people. So when you divide 329 million by 545, you get 603,669.72. So you can round that up to 70, right? So 600,000, one representative per 600, so 500,000, right? More than 500,000 people. I wonder what white Americans are actually thinking about all this. You know, Trump is, white America media just goes to comfort them. No, it's okay, everything's fine. Yeah, there's a war. Yeah, there's a great recession. Yeah, everything might go to shit, but, you know, just don't worry your sweet self. Keep going to work. Keep spending money. That's really all we want. You all don't think about nothing now. Even the NPR does that shit. So white media goes to the heart of the white man, which is terror, which is just absolute scared out of their minds. And then versus, this is Baldwin, James Baldwin. The heart of a black man is rage, and the heart of a white man is they're scared and timid. So the white media goes and reassures white America that everything's okay. Even NPR does this shit. This is why they had to attack Lee Camp. NPR had to shit all over Lee Camp. So I can just imagine how white Americans are feeling about this. White America is probably like, what the hell? Donald, he's stopping the government because he wants wall. Why can't the Dems just give Donald his wall? But then why can't Donald just let the wall go? It's like, let's see, which side am I on? One or the other? I don't know. I'm beginning to think that 545 people don't speak for, any of y'all, let alone 1 out of 600,000. Lastly, 62% of Americans don't have a job. They aren't wage slaves. They aren't employed by an oppressor. 62% of all Americans don't have a job. They have not pimped themselves out. They have not rented their body and their labor out to some other man, so they pay them for wage slavery. They're not employed by an oppressor. They don't have some shit job that basically just drains your fucking life and drains your fucking soul. 62% of Americans. So the unemployment rate is low for those looking for work. If you're not looking for work, you're not even considered part of the workforce. In order to be considered part of the workforce, you have to be looking for work. So 62% of Americans don't have a job and don't seem to want a job, right? So the unemployment rate is only 3%, 7%, somewhat pretty low. It's not bad. Last but not least, 4,000 Americans have been killed in the last 2 years by immigrants. That's true. That is true. There was another 4,000 number that was debunked, the terrorism number. They had got that from how many suspected terrorists that they stopped from the no-fly list. So 4,000 suspected terrorists that are on the no-fly list was told not to fly. So I don't know if that's even, does that mean they're terrorists if they're on the no-fly list? Isn't like radicals, some people who are radicals on the no-fly list? So you stopped American communists from not flying around. I don't know if you can consider them terrorists, but you definitely can't consider them immigrants who crossed over the southern border. That was at airports. And that's where the 9/11 terrorists came in from. Not Canada, not Mexico, but through the airports. They had a visa. They had green card. They had, they were legal. They were legal immigrants, and they flew into this country. So the 4,000 Americans have been killed in the last 2 years by immigrants. This is true. There was a shitty-ass article that came out by PolitiFact. So they checked it to see if it's true, and then they kind of just poked a couple holes in it, but they didn't sink it. Essentially, they said that the time frame was between this and this, so it was off. So the year for the federal government is between August and September, not January and December. And then they said that they suspected, right? They were either convicted of homicide or homicide-related crime, or they're suspected of it. They were charged with the crime. So that's true. They cut that down, and it was 1,600 people were murdered, and 300 were charged with murder. That's exactly what the fuck they said. So we're dealing with, we need some numbers to sort of understand the problem. One murder is too fucking much. One fucking murder is too much. People want to say, people get their panties up in a bunch about, I don't know, just being offended. Oh, I'm offended. That's offensive. But it's racist to allow illegal immigrants to kill our blacks and browns and whites and everybody. That's stupid. And people freak out about gun deaths. The amount of homicides. There's been a number of homicides, 17,000. So out of 17,000 homicides that have happened in the United States, is it possible that 11 million illegals? And the reason why they're illegals is because the American people, they don't have good legislation. What incentive does a person who lives in this country have to, out themselves and say, hey, American government, we're here. We've been here the whole time. Why would they do that? Then they'll never be able to come back to this country for 50 fucking years. So the American people have failed. The American government has failed. This is an immigration crisis. 11 million people are here illegally, and that's bullshit. That's bullshit. So what we need to do is pass George W. Bush's immigration plan or Chuck Schumer 2013. I'd refer to you to those two plans because they had it pretty well thought out. You got to deport some, give amnesty to some, and you give a pathway to citizenship for the most. So that's the biggest crisis, I think, is the 11 million. That's a crisis. And then the fact that we got 25,000 family units coming up to the border, over the border, 25,000 units every month. That's a crisis. We got to do something. We got to seal the border up. We got to make sure that people don't get in illegally. They got to come here legally. They got to come here the way we want them to come here. If they come as asylum or refugees, we should allow them. I agree with that. But we need to have a comprehensive immigration bill. We need a law. And that means the American people need to put pressure on the congressmen. But that's the thing, is that Congress is broken. Mitch McConnell is an obstructionist piece of shit. Instead of going along with Obamacare, how come Mitch McConnell didn't say, here's our health care plan. Here's the health care plan we believe in. And instead they just said, nope, you're wrong. Nope. The Democrats should do the same thing. Now they can obstruct the shit out of every fucking thing that Trump does. Just put it in the mouth of Tulsi Gabbard. Let's just wait it out, America. If the Harlan County coal miner strikers, if the Union of Harlan County in the 1970s could go for 10 months without a job, without a paycheck, just living off of each other's love and solidarity and brotherhood, then we should be able to do the same thing. We should be able to tighten up our belts. Let's tighten up our belts, America. We're going to have to wait this out for 2 years. Let's have a national strike. Let's strike against this fucking asshole. And then in 2 years, we'll get our fucking president. We'll have a revolution. We'll have an electoral revolution. We need a person who's going to have policies that we all can get behind. A very radical person with lots of, just pie-in-the-sky dreams. And I bet you, when you get politicians who's paying attention to homelessness and poverty, and education and healthcare and immigration and crime and everything else that affects human American society, when we're focused on poverty and we're all coming up with ideas on how we're going to solve poverty, that's when we're going to have, that's when America's going to become great. And if Donald Trump actually wants good advice, Donald Trump should just listen to the Democrats, let the Democrats break him, and actually fucking do something. Give me universal health care, you piece of shit. You're not going to do universal health care? Fuck your wall. Fuck your wall. I don't even want to talk to you. Get the fuck out of here. Do your wall just for what? Because you're a crybaby, temper tantrum piece of shit? I'm not going to give you a wall just because you're a fucking crybaby. Nope. Do a referendum. Put a referendum on the border. If those 4 states say that they want an entire wall, $5 fucking billion, I just feel like that we don't need an entire wall all across Mexico. I also believe that we're the ones that caused the economic crisis and the war on drugs crisis. So we need to end the war on drugs, and we need to go through with that Marshall Plan. So do the Marshall Plan, end the war on drugs, give me universal health care, then I'll give you your fucking wall. Until then, fuck you. I want Tulsi Gabbard to be president, motherfuckers. And then you want to sit there and say that's what? That's rude to call that motherfucker a that motherfucker is a motherfucker. It'd be rude to call that motherfucker a president. You want to taint the office of the presidency with that motherfucker? Jesus Christ. That's all he does is just type, I don't like this. That fat fuck, oh yeah, great military leader, right? You think he could, I think a 3-year-old kid could probably knock him out if they was in a boxing match. He can't even stand right. He's got problems just standing upright. But the 4,000 Americans have been killed in the last 2 years by immigrants. Liberals, you got to pull your heads out of your ass. If you're for open borders, fuck you. We need a common sense, comprehensive immigration fucking law. You can't let anybody and everybody come over here. You can't, MS-13, you're allowing these gangsters and these murderers and rapists and killers to hurt our people. White, brown, and black. We're not just white America, we're also black and brown America, so you allow illegal people, gangsters that come over here and hurt people, what incentive does anybody have to? No, we're a nation of laws. We're a nation of laws, and the Congress hasn't passed an immigration law for this fucking millennium. We haven't passed an immigration law this millennium. We passed one in 1965. We passed one, I think, in 1990. We passed a whole bunch of them, 1924, 1952, 1790. So we passed a bunch of them, throughout history. So we need a comprehensive fucking immigration law. That needs to come from Congress. And if Congress don't do that, it needs to come from the American people. But the American people didn't push Mitch McConnell to push his own fucking health care plan. So essentially, the opposition is just saying, nope, not going to do what you want, and I'm not going to provide an alternative either. But then when we get the gauntlet, then we'll look at the problem seriously, and then we'll actually govern as serious adults. But as long as we're playing politics, that's what politicians do, play politics, right? So what's the narrative? What's the story? Well, the story is Donald threw a temper tantrum to get his fucking wall, and he wrecked the fucking country. Stock market has been fucking going nuts, been going crazy. So, day 22 of the Trump shutdown. Good luck, everybody.